Okay, we're back. I believe this is video 5. We're still in the script writing phase here. Technically, this is still the text bulking phase. We're going to start cutting the text pretty soon. So we're back in pseudo-write here. To remind you, I'm just editing directly into pseudo-write. I'm just manually typing human text directly into pseudo-write because that's really the easiest thing to do. Because that's the thing. The text in pseudo-write, all your chapters, everything you enter, that's used to generate the new text. That's what the LLM is using as a background, as a backstory. Which is good. That means that the text that it generates is, for the most part, cohesive with what you enter. But again, that means that if you're offloading your text and editing it in a document or in a separate app, then pseudo-write isn't going to see that. Your LLM isn't going to see that unless you import it back in. So we're going to do some of that, as you see. But at this point, the most efficient thing I find is if you're still using the document in your LLM to generate from, you want to be directly editing that document like I am here. So as you can see, everything in white is what I've written or edited, and everything in green is what pseudo-write has generated. So that's kind of an easy visual way of looking at it and seeing what I've done and what pseudo-write has generated. And yeah, most of it is generated if you look at it here in pseudo-write. But we're going to get to a point where I take this out into a third-party program, into Writer Solo. It's a desktop app that is basically a script writing app. It's just a word processor, but it's a word processor specially designed to format scripts. And there's other script writing software out there. But from what I've found, Writer Solo is the best free software you can get. And the thing that's kind of a bummer is that, so I installed Writer Solo, I want to say a couple years ago. In the intervening years, I think it's become abandonware, and it's actually kind of hard to find online. You can still find it online, it's still out there to download, but the link to download it is somewhat buried on the website of the company that bought the company that wrote the software originally. So, like I said, it's kind of buried, abandonware at this point, but I'm pretty sure you can still find it and download it and install it on your PC. I don't even know if it's Mac compatible. It may or may not be. You have to look that up, but I have it on my PC, and I know that you can still get the EXE out there. So yeah, Writer Solo, it's a really good free program for writing scripts, for formatting screenplays. So anyway, at this point, I'm still just generating. As you can see, I'm going into the guided section here, and I'm actually telling it, I'm prompting it what to write. Again, it's not just writing random things. I'm telling it, write a scene where this happens. Write a scene that connects these two scenes where these two characters do this. And it pretty much does it. Right now, the model I'm using within pseudo-write is Anthropic Opus 4.7, which is, I think, their latest model, and it's really good. Like I said, using the guided write function, it pretty much writes what you tell it to write, and it will even write things within a certain style or sub-style. Sometimes I have to remind it to write it in a script format, but it seems to do that no problem, especially if I remind it every now and then. And here, I wanted it to write a scene with characters that had not been input into the character list yet. The Pale Crawlers, they are kind of like supporting monsters. So I input them into the character section first, just so that it would have that background. And it wrote the section no problem. It wrote the action sequence where the Pale Crawlers fight Prince Zenith's soldiers, and it pretty much did exactly what I wanted it to do. I edited the scene a little bit later on. But as you can see, even the stuff that pseudo write is writing, it's being prompted. I'm telling it what to write. So is it the AI writing it, or am I directing it and telling it what to write? And again, even after I tell it what to write, and even if it does a pretty good job and does exactly what I tell it to do, I'm still editing the dialogue. I'm still cutting out a lot of it. So you'll see here, I'm throwing it into a Google Doc. I'm copying and pasting the output from pseudo-write into a Google Doc for literally no good reason. I don't know. I think I was just doing this in the moment. I thought it would be a good idea to edit it in Google in script format. But then I realized that that's actually a bad idea. But I see where I was going with this. And the reason is because even though pseudo-write is generating the script in a scripted format, it's not doing it perfectly. And as such, it's actually kind of hard to read. I mean, I'm reading the outputs that it's giving me on the cards. I am editing the things that I see that just don't make sense or need to be edited. I am changing those things on the fly. You know, that's the white text that you see me inputting. So I am editing things as they are being generated, and I am adding text that I think needs to be in there for it to generate what I want it to generate. As far as a finished script, I mean, it's hard to even read some of what it's generating just because it's generating it as big blocks of text. You know, it's easier to read if it's broken up a bit. Even though it's outputting dialogue in script format, it's not doing it super consistently in the same way every time. So to really edit this properly, I'm going to export it and enter it into Writer Solo. So here I also am entering in a plot point that Ben is actually Earth's son. Of course, that means that the Earth, Mother Earth, is Ben's mom. And that wasn't a plot point that I had previously thought of or was generated, but that's something that I added in at this point here. This is still pretty much before much is really done here. I'm still generating the first parts of the script. So realize that it's okay to change any part at any point of your characters or your story arc, anything like that, and that will affect anything that's generated going forward, but obviously it won't change what's already entered into the story. So just keep that in mind. If you have important plot points, you probably want to enter them into the information before you really generate anything. especially if you're generating things that are significant to that plot point. So here, this is really just like the second beat of the story, the second major beat of the story, I would say. And I'm just trying to generate the part where Prince Zenith and Ben team up together to go meet the Atlanteans. Now, really, one of the challenges with even doing this, with documenting my process here, and I'm sure a lot of creatives will agree with me on this, is that the entire creative process, especially if you're looking at something long form like writing an entire script, recording an entire album, not only does it take a long time, as a creative person, you're just going for long hours at weird times of the day. So to document that, it's kind of impossible. I mean, you could, but it would mean just leaving a mic open or a camera open or even a screen recording going for 12 hours or 8 hours or from 6 p.m. until 2 a.m. And during those hours, you might do an hour of creative work, or maybe a couple hours, but broken up into little 10-minute sections. Maybe the really important, significant parts of your creative process is going to be 20 minutes within that 8-hour period. If you're really just doing things au naturel and trying to document it and trying to capture it with a screen recording or any type of recording, good luck with that, especially if you're trying to record the entire process for a long form project. Like I'm saying, it's really difficult just because the hours that creative people usually keep and the time frame. It's not like a 9 to 5 job where you wake up and you say, I'm going to just be creative for 8 hours straight. Some people do. I mean, to be honest, I've done that before, and really, in order to make this series, that's kind of what I have to do. That's what I've been doing in order to create these videos. I have to just block out a certain amount of time and go really hard and go really fast, not make it boring, and try to capture as much of my process as I can in a small amount of time so that even though the video is sped up, you can see kind of what's going on and I can narrate it afterwards. Likewise, these narration videos, even though I'm making them after the fact, I edit them. I have to take out all the unnecessary pauses, all the unnecessary ands, ums, likes, and other words that just get in the way. And I want to make it rapid fire. I want to try to make the audio recordings insightful, informative, and frankly, rapid fire so that you get as much bang for your buck. So yeah, that's been the challenge, and that's probably been a reason why I haven't done this kind of thing in the past, is that just the challenge of capturing everything that you're doing and capturing it in a true and honest way is pretty daunting. For me to even go about it in a scheduled way where, as I said, I just sit down and say it's 9 a.m. I'm going to work on this script hard for the next 2 hours until 11 a.m. I can do that now, but that takes a lot of discipline, and I don't know if I could have really done that when I was younger and been effective in that way. So here you see I'm editing some dialogue and I'm erasing whole sections. So as you can see here, I'm still editing dialogue, I'm still adding stuff, deleting stuff. And to remind you, all of the white is stuff that I've written or edited. All the green text is text that has been generated by pseudo-write. So at this point, I think I'm characters. I think pseudo-write might have generated a scene that was pretty much right on, but it kind of swapped out one character for the other. At least in my mind, I'm like, hey, I want Atlas to be this guy instead of Prince Zenith. So I really just had to switch out some of the dialogue and the name there for this one scene. But things like that, and again, that's why you have to actually read what the AI is generating. And a lot of times it's great, especially with newer models. But a lot of times it's just off enough to be nonsense. So you have to edit that. And to be clear, it doesn't really do that now, especially if you prompt it correctly. And a lot of it is in the prompting. As I was showing earlier with the guided generation feature, what you prompt it to do is huge. That's key in the quality of what you get. So again, here I'm changing the prompt. A basic technique, and this is probably fairly common sense, you have the last part of the prompt there that I'm not changing is a little bit of a directive that reminds it to write it in script format, and a couple other things. It's saying, make it serious or make it gory or make it whatever. You have your story. I mean, we wrote the outline together here, so I mean, according to this process, I know the story, I know how it should go. So you're really sort of going scene by scene and just telling the LLM, write this part, write the next part, write this scene where this happens with these two characters or these characters. You're very clearly directing it. And of course it gives you output. And at this point, I've directed it to give me two cards, which is two separate versions. And I don't even know if I explained this earlier. There's a slider on the settings page that lets you choose how creative you want it. So right now I have it set to like 75% creativity. And it's giving me two cards, two separate options that are pretty much what I asked for with some slight differences. From there, you just input the thing that most closely resembles what you're looking for. And then, if it's really anything that you want more or different, you can just manually edit it. Because, like I said, you know the story, you know what you want. There's no point in regenerating and hitting redo. There's no point in rolling the dice over and over again just to repeatedly get something that's 80% there when you know what that other 20% is and you can just enter it in. It's definitely a time saver if you don't fall into that dopamine trap of trying to get the AI to give you a perfect result, because it won't. Again, it depends on your prompting skill. If you're really bad at prompting or you aren't prompting it at all, it might give you a result that's 10% of what you want or 20% of what you want. And at that point, you might look at it and go, this is garbage. This isn't even worth using. But if you prompt it correctly and it gives you a result that's even 50% or 60% of what you want, that's actually still saving you 50 or 60% of the work, right? I mean, if it's halfway there, you only have to do half of the work. Truthfully, the results that I'm getting here, like I said, I've entered in a lot of information. I've entered in the synopsis, the background, something about the world, a lot about the characters, basically exactly how the story should go. And on top of that, I'm guiding it. I'm telling it as I'm generating. I'm saying, write a scene where exactly this happens. If you prompt it to that degree that we're doing here, you're going to get a result that's actually like 80 or 90% of what you want. It's going to be 80 or 90% there, believe it or not. So I don't really have to stress. I don't have to make too many attempts or generations. I literally just have one or two cards, in this case, two cards, two versions that it's generating. And of those two versions, I go, this one's the better one, because the better one is probably, like I said, 80, 85, maybe even 90% there already. And you read it, and what's not there, what isn't to your liking, you just write. You just physically write yourself. Like right here. And sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's 70%. Sometimes it's even 60% if you don't prompt it very well. Or honestly, sometimes maybe you don't really know exactly what you want. Maybe you're trying to connect two scenes where, like typically what happens in storytelling a lot of times is you know the beginning and the end, but you don't know the middle. So you're just trying to get the middle, figure out what happens in the middle in Act 2, and or you have it written, but it kind of slumps and the pacing is bad, so you're trying to fix that. And again, AI is pretty good for that, you know. So another thing too I wanted to mention, speaking of that, is that I do consider myself an AI maximalist. Although we are not exploring every option and every possible way of making an anime with AI, or even writing a script with AI, we really only have time, and within the scope of this video series, we are only able to show what I'm doing and how I'm making this particular movie. But I will mention this, that as an AI maximalist, there are a lot of ways to do it. And that includes actually using the AI to brainstorm and to get your initial idea and to write your hooks. And a lot of people would look down on that. A lot of people would say, hey, that is using the AI to be creative. That is using the AI to do what humans should be doing, because that is leaving the creativity up to the AI. As a maximalist, I have to say, sure. I mean, that's certainly an opinion, and maybe that's true. I mean, certainly that's true for that person saying that. But at the end of the day, people are going to do what they're going to do. You can't stop someone, and it really is just a tool. So even if you look down on that, even if you decry it, people are going to do it. And the fact of the matter is, even with that, you can do that poorly or you can do that well. Honestly, you can do that well. There's ways to do that and have it be very good. One way, for instance, is to actually train an AI with the writing structures, with the story structures that we had mentioned in the first video. That's the thing, is that most of these AIs, these LLMs, they aren't going to know a story structure like Save the Cat automatically. What you do is you write a prompt that actually explains the entire concept of Save the Cat or any other story structure. And that basically just involves writing out and repeating the entire concept of Save the Cat, but trying to keep it in under one page, or the 3-act structure or the 7-act structure. And you write out these entire ideas in the form of a prompt. You try to keep it short and sweet, and you tell the AI, this is how we want to write a story. Now take my idea, and then, you can take whatever short, half-baked idea you have, and you can say, hey, ChatGPT, Google AI Studio, Claude, Anthropic, whatever you're using. Using the structure I just showed you in the first prompt, take that and apply that to this short idea, to this short hook that I have, and use that story structure to complete the idea and flesh it out and turn it into an entire story. It'll do it. It will. It's a very productive way of getting an outline very quickly because it will do it. It will actually create an entire story using 3-act structure, 5-act structure, save the cat, the 6 questions. It will apply those algorithms, because that's really all a story structure is an algorithm, using its knowledge of Hollywood tropes and typical things that happen in scripts and in stories. It will actually give you something that is pretty viable. Now, of course, you probably have to go in there and add some creative things. You have to probably add jokes or unique situations or build out the characters. But once you do that, it's almost like a fast track to a Hollywood style script. So here we're in Writer Solo and we're actually beginning to format the script. And really all I did was copy and paste everything from pseudo-write directly into Writer Solo. And again, the reason why I'm doing that is it's just going to make it a lot easier to read and a lot easier to edit. Now, you don't have to. You can edit everything directly in pseudo-write. But the beauty of this application, Writer Solo, is that it's made to format things into a script, and it does it really well. It does it really efficiently. There are just these buttons right on top of the interface where you literally just highlight a line and press a button, and it turns that into a name. It turns that into dialogue. It turns that into an action. It turns that into a scene description. And this is a little bit harder than it looks because, say, if we had outputted the story in novel format like it was doing originally, if it's writing prose like a novel and it's not formatted for a script or a screenplay at all, and we just enter it in here, then it's not going to be able to do this because we aren't going to have the names that just instantly turn into characters like that. We aren't going to have blocks of action descriptions that we can just turn that basically just automatically are turned into action descriptions. We aren't going to have separated dialogue without the quotations that we can just literally click on and then click a button that says and turn it. The dialogue won't be separated out this cleanly. It'll have quotations, and we won't be able to just click on one line and hit a button that says dialogue and have it turn into dialogue right underneath the character name. So that's the thing, is that work that we did initially to get pseudo-write to output an actual screenplay, that's how we're able to reformat this into a real screenplay super fast and super cleanly. And even though this is sped up at 4 times speed, it's really just as fast as I can highlight the line. I'm really able to do it as fast as I can highlight the line and click on the button. There might even be a hotkey. I think there is even actually a hotkey command where you just highlight the line and hit control whatever, and it automatically does the action for you. But at the time I was recording this and making the video, I was too lazy to even look that up. And I just wanted to show you that this is really all you're doing, is you're just highlighting things, hitting a button, and that reformats all the work that we did and outputted into what is really like a legit screenplay. So yeah, as I was saying earlier, you can use an LLM, and really with a single prompt, you can train an LLM to take an idea and within a given story structure, develop the idea into almost an entire outline, and really almost into an entire script. So the highlighted things in different colors, I think I might have missed it earlier, but a great function of writer solo is that you're actually able. One of the cool functions of writer solo is that it has a format check function, which is what the different color highlighting, which is what the different highlighted colored sections are. If you hover over the highlighted section on the right, underneath that blue button, it actually tells you what's wrong with the section. With a lot of these, the actions, the action sections, they're hard to read because it's just a big block of text. So to format it correctly, it can't be more than 4 lines in a row in the action sections. That's something I wouldn't even really know or realize, but it does make it so much easier to read when you break that text up. So here, I'm turning the character names into actual character names in the script, and all that really does is it centers the name and it capitalizes it. But again, that makes it stand out, so when you're reading the script, you see the character dialogue a lot better. The descriptive sections within parentheses, again, that's something that has its own button and is really easy to do here. Although I'm leaving them in there, a lot of that is going to be just deleted eventually in the next step. So again, here we're breaking up these large action scenes, these large action descriptions that are just solid blocks of text. And it's so much easier to read them when they're broken up into a couple sentences here, line break, a couple sentences. And that way you can organize the thought and organize the visual a little bit better rather than just having this big block of text. And that's probably the main reason, for me anyway, that makes it hard to read in pseudo write, is to just have these big blocks of text. So to properly read it and to visualize it and to just immerse yourself into the writing, I prefer to put it into writer solo, like we're doing here. So breaking up all these parentheticals, breaking up all these action descriptions, properly formatting things as dialogue, as character names. And again, if we didn't get pseudo write to output it the way that it did, because it did a pretty good job. It did capitalize the character names and give us a return between the dialogue. And it didn't put quotation marks around the dialogue either, which is a real big one, because it really sucks to have to delete a whole script worth of quotation marks. So anyway, it did the basics. It got the basic format right. But as far as copying and pasting it into this document in Writer Solo, you actually do have to do this work here. Writer Solo is not an AI program. It's not AI powered. It's not generating text. If that wasn't clear, everything you see me writing within this program here, Writer Solo, is me doing human writing and manually just editing and entering things. So like right here when deleting, and not quite in this step, but in a couple more steps here, you'll see me entering in actual. You'll see me entering in fresh new text and changing dialogue, and that's not generated. That's me writing that. But at this step here, we're still just formatting. We're going through all these color highlighted sections, that's all still what the auto detection for the auto formatting picked up as problems. The button that says find errors, sometimes you have to re-hit that to recheck, because occasionally, I'm not sure if you'll see this or not, but sometimes it'll change something and it will stay highlighted even after it's been fixed. So you have to just hit the find errors button again and reset it, and the highlight will go away. But for the most part, you just automatically fix it and the highlight goes away, and you can just move down to the next highlighted section and fix that. And as I stated earlier, if you have a question about what the problem actually is, if you hover the cursor over the highlighted section, that small text that keeps on appearing and disappearing below the blue button on the right, that actually tells you what is wrong with the highlighted colored section. Sometimes it'll tell you that the character name doesn't have any corresponding dialogue, and that'll happen if the dialogue beneath it didn't get tagged as dialogue. Sometimes when it gets input, it seems like everything gets automatically input as an action sequence, as an action description. So you kind of have to go through these and change all of those dialogue sections to dialogue. And same thing with the parentheses. You have to tag them as parentheses. But the thing with the parentheses is what they are in the script is they are non-dialogue descriptors, and usually they're explaining a character's inner thoughts, or maybe their facial expression, or what they're doing. And some of those are important. The ones that the parenthetical sections that explain significant on-screen actions, you want to keep those because those are important. Those are probably important to your story and your script. But here's the thing. A lot of the parentheticals, a lot of the things in parentheses, they're explaining inner thoughts and things that kind of have no bearing on a screenplay. Because that's the thing. When you're writing a screenplay, it's a lot different than when you're writing a novel, not just in the formatting, but in the fact that, I mean, perhaps you have a narrator in your screenplay, but most movies don't have a narrator, so you have no way of knowing a character's inner thoughts. You have no way of knowing, there's no God's eye view. I mean, you see through a third eye perspective, but there's no way of knowing the unknowable. You can only know what's shown on screen, with either what's told through exposition, what the characters talk about. But again, you don't want to have a movie that's just characters talking about exposition. That's one of the follies of writing a screenplay, of writing a poor screenplay, is just having too much exposition. So you want to have the characters, you want to tell the story visually. You want to write your screenplay. You want to show, not tell. That's a catchphrase they use a lot when teaching people how to write an effective screenplay. Show, not tell. These parts of the story, these parts of the screenplay that are explaining a character's deep inner thoughts, or sometimes it's not even their inner thoughts. Sometimes it's just a little descriptor about their demeanor or their attitude or their. Those are great. Sometimes those are good to leave in a screenplay, but I think as a director, when you're, again, the dialogue is what matters and the visuals are what matters, and you as the director, that's kind of your job to direct the actors, and even AI actors and even animation. It's your job to decide what the characters look like and how they are emoting and what their expressions are like. So really, you can leave that out. I mean, you can leave it in if you're trying to communicate to yourself what people should look like and how they should be emoting and whatever. But I believe that a lot of that should be left or can be left to the actual generation stage when you are directing your video, when you're directing your virtual characters. Because then at that point is sort of when you're reading the script and interpreting it and saying, hey, I want this scene to go this way. I want the interaction between these two characters to convey this. If it's important and significant enough for you to put in your script, then put it in your script. If you feel that it should be in there, then. And this is one of those things that's subjective. So this next part is really just me editing, and you'll see me here in Writer Solo making a lot of edits and changing a lot of dialogue. And again, this is sped up 4 times, so we're watching this in 4x speed, and you'll see that I am in fact doing a lot of writing and changing a lot of stuff, although it takes a lot of time. It's not going super fast because I'm not a super fast writer. As I explained before, I'm probably a pretty slow writer when compared to guys who actually write screenplays for a living, you know? Or, I mean, there are some novelists out there who are crazy prolific and they write novels super fast. I'm definitely not one of those guys, even with AI, you know? So, again, that's one of those things. People think AI is, the easy street. It kind of is, I'll be honest. It is. But again, it also takes a lot of hard work to really use it correctly and to really do anything worthwhile. Easy is relative. Are you taking the easy route to the store down the street, or are you taking the easy route to the moon? You know, I mean, if you're going to the moon, then by all means take the easy route, right? So I think AI, it for sure has its use in all stages of production. I truly believe that. So again, we're pretty much just editing here. We're adding new dialogue, we're adding new text. We're fixing a lot of the scenes because a lot of them actually don't really work with my story the way I envisioned it. And again, when people say AI wrote the whole thing, I mean, did it? Because here I am in a word processor doing quite a bit of work. And again, I'm not saying I'm a writing expert or I'm a writing badass or I'm a super prolific super novelist or anything like that. It is good to have AI do some of the work for you. Like I said, if AI even does 50% of the work for you, then that's 50% of the work that you don't have to do.